What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. So, with the new crystal system coming up in the near future, I believe either next week or the week after, I wanted to talk about something that was pretty important. So, what I wanted to do is talk about the crystals that I think are worth it from season all the way to endgame. So, what does that mean? Whether you're a season character and you're looking to get into like cheap crystals and then convert them into the end game ones, that's what I want to be talking about. And yeah, so with the new system, I'm not 100% sure on how exactly it works, but I do know that new combinations are going to be readily available and you guys are going to get to try different things. So I believe that's going to be pretty awesome. So we'll look at it when it comes out, but for now, I just want to talk about crystals I think are notable, so you could just either stock up or you have an idea of what's good for now. So let's talk about main weapons first. Let's go with what is entry level and what is end game stuff. And I'll try to do some mentions whether it is also used for PvP and not, whatever. So right now, I think some crystals get outdated as time goes on, and they're changing the system of not being able to have like stacks of certain things. Like, I don't know how to describe it just yet, but you can't have like 2 Jinn Vipers and then 2 other, or like the non-Jinn Vipers. That's still going to be the same. So yeah, if you are PvPing, one thing that's always been pretty interesting to think about was the whole damage to humans, and I know they're changing that one with the new system. And so usually when it comes to AP and damage to X thing, like whether it's monsters or like players, humans, 1 AP has always been the same as 1 to humans in terms of crystal stats, not like sheet AP and all that stuff. So this one would give a total of 8 to human damage, and technically, well, this one does 8 plus crit and then attack speed. So I've always thought that Karmes were technically better than the powers, but that's like very minimal change in terms of PvP. But I guess for the majority of players, you're probably either a casual PvPer or big into PvE. So things I would recommend for your main weapon are probably just Elcars, because generally accuracy is the way to go. Ignoring all resist is also just the way to go for both PvP and PvE. So I think no matter what class you play, Elcars are like the golden standard of you have this. So this is what I would consider the end game crystal for your main hand. And the entry level one would be the precisions, because the difference is Elcar has 12 accuracy and the precisions have 8. The difference is like 60 mil. Back in the day, fun fact, these Elcars used to be like 300 mil, so that was like actually a huge gap between 4 mil and 300. Now 4 to 60, like realistically, I would just go straight up Elcars now, just because they're so cheap. At least on the NA server they are. But generally, if you're starting out, you don't know if you're going to commit to a character, just get precisions. But if you think you're just going to play your character for a long time, just go straight up Elcars. That's the way to go. And pretty much everything else here is basically irrelevant dead crystals. You have Elcars or precisions, or you have a PvP crystal. That's about it. Sub weapons are a little bit trickier to talk about because there are more choices. But what I would recommend is, generally for most classes, corrupt magic crystals is probably the way to go for straight up damage. And aside from that, there are people that run awakened spirit crystals because they're cheaper, or the Voltara ones, rebellious, and the PvP ones. So I think most people will go corrupted. They're also fairly cheap. They used to be a lot more when Star's End was more popular, but I guess like you can still get it, but it's not like wild. Most people just go corrupteds. But if you're going for like a gimmick build, you could do ignore resists, which I've actually tried to do the ignore what is it? The ignore grapple. I actually think I do have that crystal. Let me just show you guys. Yeah, I used to run 2 Jin grapples, not on my DK. It's ignore. Okay, so the way it works is when it says ignore insert like CC, you ignore the enemy's CC or like resistances for that. It's not yours kind of thing. So for DKs is basically irrelevant, but for other classes, like, I don't know, anything that has a grab, it's pretty good. Let's see, where are we? So PvPers, I don't really see them using this one either, because it's just, it feels like it's less than Corrupteds, because crit damage, in my opinion, scales a little bit more than flat AP. Like, best way to describe it would be, do you want your minimum floor damage to be a little bit higher, or do you want to do big crit damage and do potentially more? And I think the crit is valued higher than that. But for everyone else, PvEers, Rebellious Spirit Crystal is also a solid choice. But I think for the most part, Corrupted Magics is just the way to go for basically everyone. Yeah, all of these, you use them to craft the higher tier crystals, but the critical hit one would be the budget one if you really didn't want to spend like 80 million on one. But there's a lot of orders, so they're used to make these 1 million crystals of critical hit are used to make the Corrupteds, which is why they're in demand. But with that said, 1 mil versus 80 mil. This is your alternative, cheaper option. And yeah, I don't think I would really recommend using anything else aside from critical hit. Next, we have awakening weapons. Now, this is a special topic because to get crystal slots in your awakening weapon, even with the new changes coming up, you're still going to need a Garmoth's Heart in your weapon. So here are my 2 things. If you are a PvEer, as in you grind circles all day, the purple crystals of Akarad are going to be the way to go, because it just gives monster damage and accuracy, but mostly monster damage. If you are a PvPer, you want extra damage to humans, because it'll help you kill faster. Alternative options would be into Versatile, which we'll get to a little bit later. But you could use Hooms instead. So you would have a 4-piece Hoom set. But overall, I think you should get one of these depending on what you do. PvP, PvE, or PvE, PvP. All right, helmets. This is interesting because, as you guys know, when it comes to armors, we're going to branch off into the whole DR route versus evasion route. What you do is how you build your character. So for evasion players, this is the one you use, the Jin Harpias, because it gives the most evasion. This is the best in slot for that one. It is also the most expensive and potentially on order, at least on servers are. Low key, if you are looking for this, the best way to do it is run the dungeons, the Ataraxian thing, and then exchange it for the Harpia thing and just pray you make one yourself. Because, like, it's not hard to get it, but if you want it, like, instantly, you just run the dungeons and there's a good chance you'll get it, probably, in, like, 10 attempts. I personally use Harpia or RBF Harpia crystals in my helmet because I like to have PvP crystals when I'm doing stuff. So HP is always nice. Recovery is a meme in 2022 and going forward. And extra damage to humans is pretty nice. So I personally use these. The HP and mostly damage to humans. I literally don't care about recovery. That's not saving you. experience crystals in your helmet, I am not really sure why people use this, because if you play seasons, you just kind of have a lot of them. They literally give you the exact same things but better for free. And I don't know, unless you somehow keep breaking the crystals, you get 2 of them just by playing the seasons, and it's free reward. So cool. I think that's it. But in the helmet, other options would be Hooms in your helmet, because that's what I used to do. It's more defensive stuff. We'll get to that later. So armor is pretty straightforward. You always want the special evasion crystals. Now, let me show you how to get this. If you don't have a Jin special evasion, literally get a Wan or Bond. The difference between all of these is 30 HP, 50, and 100. 100 meaning best in slot. This one has a lot of orders on it, but if you look at how to make it, it's literally on the tooltip. It's actually very easy to make. So despite being 25,000 orders, if you feel like spending like 1 million silver, maybe 2 million to get it, it's so worth it. So this would be the entry level one if you can get it, but ideally you want the Jin ones at endgame. But seeing how many orders there are, just literally get the one that's available. Like, real talk, just get the one you can buy off the market. So that's overall best in slot for pretty much everything. If you are a PvPer, this is an option. I would still go special evasion no matter what you do. So yeah, that's about it. Special evasion, doesn't matter what class you are, go for it. And I gave you my opinions on like the other ones and alternatives, so that's good. Gloves, Jin Vipers, arguably the best in slot for basically all classes, and the RBF Vipers are the ones you use for PvP. Now, I'm not sure about the new system if you're able to use RBF Vipers plus Jin Vipers. I don't think so, but I'm gonna have to confirm that once it comes out. And so when it comes to Vipers, ideally you want to get Jins, but until you get them, you could use these as alternative. Just make sure to get the one that actually affects your class, because this one is 2 attack speed, 1 cast. This is 1 attack, 2 cast. Does it really matter? Not really if you're full buffed, but just try to get the right one anyway. Alternatively, what are the low or other options? I don't think there really are any other ones. You either have a Viper or you have a, well, you have a Viper, but whether you have the accuracy or PvP ones is a different option. Generally, though, I think I value accuracy higher than the extra human damage, even for PvP, because there are people that are mega evasion cracked, and then it just helps you. So when it comes to shoes, this one is actually very difficult because there's a lot of combinations. And personally, if you are a PvPer, you're going to be using one of like 3 different things. You're going to be using the Hystria one for the extra damage, Adamantines because of resistance, and Giants because of resistance. I personally have tested all 3 of these, and I think I like having 1 Adamantine and 1 Giant as a like overall balance resistance. If you are just a glass cannon, or you just like doing as much damage as possible, Hystrias are the way to go. But yeah, for me personally, I just like to have the balance of resistances, and it's overall good. So for everyone who isn't a PvPer, what you could do is Hooms in here as well, because I think that's just the overall best one. So I talked about Hooms a lot. So where do you actually get them? So in the versatile, that means these crystals can be slotted into any gear slot, and with the new change, I think it's still, you can only use 4. So basically, this is what you get as a base, and then you combine these and turn it into the Han ones. Han ones obviously better, more expensive, and these are just like the basic versions of it. So I used to use Han Hooms a lot. I still actually have 4 of them because I just never sold it. Now, I do believe that this is the general good one for like more defensive stats, whereas Macalods are more offensive. The reason why I would choose these are mostly just because it allows you to get more resistances, and especially as a newer player, whether you want to grind somewhere new and just try a new spot out without feeling like you're going to just get clapped, this allows you to do that. It's tankier. I feel like for Macalods, the only people that use them are glass cannon classes and people that really know what they're doing and how to play their class. Other than that, whether you're learning or something, Hooms are generally the way to go. The slots I would recommend using them are either helmet and shoes if you don't like the resistance PvP stuff, or you could also put them in your awakening weapon if you want to and you literally don't do anything else. These are for grinders, but even then it's kind of sketch. It's like extra XP, but I'd rather have more damage in that case of, you know, curvish ones. Everything else is kind of just outdated. So the ones we talked about are the ones I feel are actually relevant. And if you want an idea, let me show you. So these are the crystals that I use. These are like actually what I use for a little PvP and PvE. So right now I have the PvE crystals, but with the new changes, I have actually always used the Alukas, which are the PvP ones back in the day. But then I figured if I am really just going to be grinding a lot more than PvPing, I'm just going to swap it out. So I have these ready to go, and I do think they're really worth it. So if you want to like take a screenshot of the crystals I use, go for it. Yeah, basically everything we talked about I unironically use. So right now I have 2 adamantines in the shoes. If you want to get giants, cool. But like 1 giant, 1 adamantine is good. If you're just full damage, you go Histrias. And I think they're actually giving away 1 slot in your costume. The difference is you get movement speed or crit hit, and I don't think either of them are a right or wrong choice. It's just personal preference. So I personally like the movement speed a little bit more, but you can get the crit off elixirs and stuff. I mean, you can also get movement speed off of elixirs and stuff, but yeah, up to you. Yeah, the only thing that I would change for you is if you are a full PvEer, you use the purple crystals in your weapon. You could use Hooms in your helmet and shoes. But if you like to do PvP as a mix, then I think this is what is pretty solid as well. So depends if you are evasion as well versus DR. That changes a little bit up, but I do believe the crystals we talked about are relevant. So when the new system comes out, hopefully you guys will have an idea of what to get for, I guess, beginners all the way up to endgame. So with that said, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you guys come back. Trying to make some videos for beginner players all the way to endgame. And my goal for making videos is basically to help people improve, and hopefully you guys learn something. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you later.